Sure. A dying man, a whispered secret, and gold ore so pure it had no business existing in the desert. He pressed a map into her hands. He told her where to look. Then Jacob Waltz closed his eyes and never spoke again. The mine he described has never been found. The Superstition Mountains rise out of the Arizona desert like something left behind by a civilization that didn't want to be remembered. Jagged volcanic rock, no water, no shade. The Apache called this place the home of the thunder god and warned outsiders to stay away. Most of them didn't listen. Jacob Waltz arrived in Arizona territory sometime around 1863. He was a German immigrant. Dutchman was the common mispronunciation of Deutsch. And by the 1870s, he had settled near Phoenix, living quietly, attracting little attention. Neighbors described him as self-sufficient. Occasionally, he would disappear into the superstitions for weeks at a time. He always came back with gold. Not nuggets, not dust, high-grade ore. Assayers who examined samples estimated the gold content was extraordinarily rich. Some accounts place it among the highest quality ore ever seen in Arizona territory. Where it came from, Waltz never said. In 1891, a flood struck the Phoenix area. Waltz was found near his home, sick and dying from exposure. A woman named Julia Thomas took him in and cared for him in his final weeks. In exchange for her kindness, Waltz spoke. He described a mine somewhere in the superstitions. He gave landmarks: a canyon, a needle-shaped rock formation, a cave, a dry creek. He said the entrance could only be seen from a specific angle at a specific time of day. On October 25, 1891, Jacob Waltz died. Julia Thomas spent the following years searching. She found nothing. She eventually sold hand-drawn maps based on Waltz's description for $7 each to fund further expeditions. The maps spread. The legend grew. Then something changed. People started dying. The first recorded death connected to the search came in the early 1930s. Adolph Ruth was a retired government clerk from Washington, D.C., who believed he had obtained a genuine map to the Lost Dutchman Mine. In June 1931, he entered the Superstition Mountains alone, despite being in poor health and walking with a cane. Searchers found part of his skull 6 months later. His torso was discovered a mile away. He had been shot in the head. His notes and maps were missing. The official verdict was exposure and animal activity. Some investigators were not satisfied. Adolph Ruth had written a letter to his son before entering the mountains. In it, he wrote, "Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered." He believed he had already found it. Ruth was not the last. Over the following decades, at least 8 people died in the Superstition Mountains while searching for the Lost Dutchman Mine. Causes ranged from heat exhaustion and falls to gunshot wounds that investigators could not fully explain. Families of the missing gathered what information they could. In several cases, searchers were never found at all. The terrain itself is severe enough to kill without any help. Temperatures in summer exceed 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The volcanic rock disorients navigation. Trails disappear. Water sources are almost non-existent. But some deaths raise questions that the desert alone could not answer. Now here's where it gets strange. Jacob Waltz may not have discovered anything on his own. Several researchers have argued that the Peralta family, a wealthy Mexican mining family, worked a gold operation in the Superstitions decades before Waltz arrived in Arizona. According to this version, Waltz either purchased the location from a Peralta family member, was led there as a guide, or stumbled onto an already worked claim. In 1949, a man named Travis Tumlinson discovered a collection of stone tablets near the base of the Superstitions. The tablets became known as the Peralta Stones. Carved into them were what appeared to be maps, Spanish text, cross symbols, and topographical markings pointing toward a specific location in the mountains. Researchers were divided immediately. Some argued the carvings were genuine colonial-era artifacts. Others concluded they were fabricated, too convenient, too legible, discovered at exactly the right time. The debate was never resolved. The tablets are still studied today. No consensus has ever been reached. The official position of the United States Forest Service, which administers the Tonto National Forest where the superstitions sit, is that no verified mine has ever been located. The agency has discouraged treasure hunting in the wilderness area for decades, citing safety concerns, but prohibited has never meant stopped. Thousands of people enter the Superstition Mountains every year, some of them carrying maps, GPS units, or copies of Waltz's original deathbed descriptions. The hidden gold mine theories fall into three broad categories. The first holds that the mine is real and simply has not been found yet. Proponents point to the documented quality of the ore Waltz produced, to multiple witness accounts of seeing his gold, and to the geological fact that the superstitions do sit within an area of historic volcanic and hydrothermal activity capable of producing high-grade ore deposits. But there is a problem. More than 130 years of systematic searching has produced nothing. Not a shaft, not a tailings pile, not a single geological confirmation. The second theory holds that Waltz's mine was a reworked Spanish or Mexican colonial claim, already known to others, already partially exhausted, and deliberately concealed within the landmark network of the Peralta operation. Under this theory, the mine could be found if the Peralta Stones were decoded correctly, and yet the stones themselves have never yielded a single verified location. The third theory is the one nobody wants to say out loud, that Jacob Waltz had gold, but never had a mine, that he acquired high-quality ore through purchase, trade, or theft, possibly from active operations in the region, and invented the story of a hidden deposit to protect a simpler secret. Some researchers who have studied his life have noted that Waltz had social connections to active miners throughout Arizona territory. Under this version, the Lost Dutchman Mine does not exist because it never existed. The secret died with him because there was no secret. And then came something nobody expected. In 2009, a man named Jesse Capen vanished in the Superstition Mountains. He was 35 years old. He had spent years obsessively researching the Lost Dutchman Mine and had filled notebooks with maps, calculations, and theories. Searchers looked for him for 3 years. In 2012, his body was discovered wedged into a narrow crevice on a remote cliff face, 60 feet off the ground. How he reached that position was never fully explained. His notebooks were recovered. They contained no record of a discovery. He had found nothing. Capen was not alone. Two other men who had entered the mountains around the same period, Ardean Charles and Malcolm Meeks, also vanished and were found dead. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office noted in its reporting that all three men appeared to have been drawn specifically to the same general area of the mountains. None of them had coordinated with each other. None of them knew the others were searching. They were found within a few years of each other in terrain few casual hikers would have any reason to enter. The sheriff's office attributed the deaths to the environment. No foul play was established, but the pattern remained unexplained. The Superstition Mountains have now been designated a wilderness area. Mining claims are prohibited. The landscape has been surveyed multiple times using aerial photography and geological mapping. No mine shaft, no ore deposit of the quality Waltz described, no structure that matches any version of the deathbed landmarks. We have better tools now than anyone searching in Waltz's time. Satellite imaging has mapped the terrain in detail. Ground-penetrating radar has been proposed as a search method. Geological surveys have been conducted throughout the region. None of it has produced an answer. The Arizona treasure remains exactly where it has always been, just out of reach or nowhere at all. What the case does reveal, plainly and without any need for embellishment, is how a single dying man's whispered words can outlast everything built to find them. Waltz offered a deathbed confession or a deathbed invention. More than a century later, neither possibility has been ruled out. The search has cost money, time, and lives. It continues regardless. The Superstition Mountains are still there. The canyon walls do not give answers. The Thunder God's territory does not negotiate. And somewhere in the record of Jacob Waltz's life, in the assay reports, the neighbor accounts, the ore that nobody could explain, sits the original question, still unanswered. A dying man pressed a map into a woman's hands. He told her the entrance could only be seen from one angle, at one time of day. Hundreds of people have stood in those mountains and looked. What force, geography, deception, or something older, keeps erasing the answer before anyone can bring it back? The Unsolved Vault, new cases every week.